I listen to you and I feel if it isn't God as love, then it's the wrong thing. Like there's lots of texts in the Bible. There's lots of ways to think about God. There's lots of testaments about God, as you say. I think the truth of the truth that put me in ministry, that keeps me in ministry, is God is love. And honestly, Aunjanue, I think I've said this to you before, but I outgrew this other God a long time ago. Like, I outgrew God that didn't speak many languages. I outgrew God who couldn't speak Islam and Judaism and Buddhism and nature. If the God I keep working for is multivocal and can be experienced at the ocean, and can be experienced in the sky, it can be experienced, honestly, in a great meal with friends, laughing and telling good stories. That sense that wherever two or more of us is gathered, I don't think it matters where. And I think we are singing good songs, and I think we might be singing good songs outside on the street, marching. Ain't nobody gonna turn me around. So yeah, and the other stuff is, to me, gets in the way. And I'm not saying that it's not helpful. It is helpful to have ethical instruction. It is helpful to think about what is just and good and right. It is helpful. What's not helpful is I have set up rules and regulations that are designed to keep people out of God's love. That's not helpful to me. So I don't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. I think if God is God, then God's intention would be for every child, no matter what color they are, no matter their circumstances. You didn't pick being born in Mississippi, and I didn't pick being born to Mississippi parents. We didn't pick being chocolatey brown people. A girl in China doesn't pick that. So why, what kind of people think a girl in China is going to go to hell because she wasn't born in a Christian family? That's crazy. I think that's a little crazy. So I love this conversation just about the need, the constructs that create, I would say the constructs that create self-love are the same constructs that create love of neighbor. That edict, love neighbor, love self, right? Like, if you can't love yourself, how are you going to love your neighbor? And if the construct of religion makes you hate yourself, then it kind of actually disrupts the other part, right? How are you gonna love your neighbor if you're taught to hate yourself? That's a little bit wonky.
Right.
Yeah. So let me just ask this question, beautiful Black queen of the world. What's going on with people right now that are like fascist haters? Why is the world on fire with such bigotry and xenophobia, and the idea that unless you look like me, you're not, I'm supposed to, what's your analysis of why it feels like people have circled up their wagons and the only people that they want to turn some love on are the ones that think like them and look like them? Am I overstating that, or does that feel right?
Oh, no. You're not overstating that. I mean, Mississippi is a teacher, and it is a microcosm for the world. I grew up in that, with that, still very much alive here. One of my friends said that, Mississippi is the petri dish from which, Trumpism was, born. People didn't pay attention to it. We slept on it for a long time. Now we see the results of it.
Yes,
now we see right. What's happened.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps it has something to do with what you just said. It's like, if you grow up with that kind of self-hate, like, how can you love someone? And, a lot of these folks are evangelicals. They're right. Evangelicals.
That's right. That's right.
And so much of, that is rooted in, is articulated through shame.
Right. Mm.
It is all, it is so much of that language and doctrine and orthodoxy is rooted in and articulated through shaming, not just shame, but shaming.
That's right.
You know, that ethical instruction that alluded to. That's all it is. That is all it is. And I feel that it's an incomplete doctrine because they don't talk about racism. You know what I mean? You go in there, I've been in these churches, they don't talk about racism. They don't say that racism is a sin.
No
they don't say that. They say everything else is a sin. Adultery is a sin. But they do not say that racism is a sin. They don't teach that. They don't teach that at all. So what's the result? So what's the, I believe that how can you, I believe this, if we want to tell young men and young women, don't be violent, but we don't teach them not to be violent. So but we teach them other things, right?
Right.
We teach them other things. We teach them math.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We teach them, we all kinds of stuff we teach them. But we don't teach them about, social behavior that could end someone's life or put you in jail. We don't teach that. And I believe, I'm talking about that's schools, but in terms of like the church experience, that is as valid. That is as valid. If you want something from your congregation, you need to teach it. If you don't want them drinking, you tell people don't drink. That's what they do, right?
That's right.
But they don't tell them to not hate Black people.
That's right.
They don't do that.
That's right. No, that's right. And
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Basic.
That's basic. Yeah.
That's morality to me. That's morality to me. That's what morality is to me. And they're not taught that. They're not taught that. They're not taught to think that they are equal, that Black people are equal to them.
Yeah.
They're not taught that women are equal. You know what I'm saying? That's not taught. Because so from jump, it's not something that they've learned. They learned that you shouldn't abort babies.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But they don't, you know what I'm saying? That's morality to them.
Don't abort babies, but you don't need to value Black lives. I was talking to Robbie Jones a little while ago, this guy who runs a research company, and he's a Baptist minister and white from Mississippi. Aunjanue, he shares our Mississippi heritage.
Wow.
And he was really talking about how white people, the white church, he goes all the way to like the white church period, just does not value that kind of ethical instruction that puts down its privilege, right? That puts down its privilege, that says, that accepts. And to be honest, I think, sometimes I feel like I want to say, okay, white people who say you're Christian, the person you follow in the world is not white with blonde hair. Let me disavow you. This is a Jewish, by the way, don't be anti-Semitic, Jewish, poor, baby born, in a scandal to an unwed mother who was raised in Palestine, who was a refugee, who passed for Egyptian, I'm trying to say, since he could hide out in Egypt. So brown, the Jews are Afro-Semitic people. Like, what would happen if they didn't think Jesus was white? Then would they teach each other to lay down racial prejudice? I just wonder about that.
Right.
And, there's going to be some really nice white people listening to this podcast because, I always tell you I'm on the white people tour. I'm on the nice white people tour in my ministry to help convert nice white people to revolution and to liberation and to say, hey, nice white people, I know you don't mean any harm, but let me just help you think about how you can't really hold racism and Jesus in the same hand. It's too crowded. Racism. If you have racism in your hand, you can't really put your hand on the plow of the gospel. It's just too crowded there.
Right. You can't do both.
You really can't. To love God with all your heart and soul and mind and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself, is to think about what your neighbor needs. I'm going to say this too long. I'm going to try to make it quicker. But like the rabbis will say, when you love your neighbor, when the rabbis, first of all, the Jews will say, only one time in the Hebrew Bible does it say, love your neighbor. The rest of the time it says, love the stranger, right? They got one love your neighbor, and they got like 36 love the strangers. And you say, what do you mean? Just like the rich man asked Jesus, who's my neighbor? The rabbi question is, well, what does it mean to love the stranger? And they say, if you love the stranger and the stranger's your enemy, if your enemy's cow comes in your backyard, you have to feed the cow and water the cow. You can't kill the cow. You can't eat the cow. You have to take care of your enemy's cow until the enemy comes home, and then you give it back.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Right? That's a lot of love right there.
Right.
And that's Jesus's people, Aunjanue. That's his people. Take care of your neighbor's cow. Take care of the enemy's cow. Tell me about, you travel a lot in your work, and that means you see the world through the eyes of, like, you're visiting a lot of cultures. When you think about loving the world, is that too much to ask? Can we be global neighbors, Aunjanue?
Oh, I definitely think so. I definitely think so. And I think, I love how Fannie Lou Hamer and Ella Baker as well, they both were insistent on civil rights not being enough for them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that they were more interested in and more driven by the idea of human rights.
Mm-hmm.
And so their concern was less about our journey as Black folks in America and the rights that we are denied because we are Black, and more about this idea of who we are as human beings in this world. Mm-hmm. And how do we walk? How do we love? How do we feed each other, particularly with Fannie? She was very, very much about, making sure people were fed. How do we do that?
Right.
And it didn't have really anything to do with the United States of America. It didn't have anything to do with our citizenship in this country. It had to do with our human walk on this planet. So I live by that. And I just think that this idea of, statehood and, countryhood and, it's a trick of the devil. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, it's just some stuff that, men made so they can be in control of something.
Right.
You know what I mean? Out of their insecurity. I just don't live by that. I mean, it's so interesting. Like when those folks, the terrorists who invaded the Capitol, when they invaded the Capitol, their Capitol building, they came up in there shouting USA.
That's right. Yep.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
What does that even mean to them? What does that even mean to them? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah. So will you and I see that in our lifetimes? I don't know. I don't know that. But I think we have to start asking these, bigger questions about who we are, not as American citizens, but who we are as human beings living in, not just on this planet, but in this galaxy, because of the fact that there will be diseases that we as human beings don't have the capacity to heal. That is what we're dealing with right now.
That's right.
I believe that, we had this notion that aliens would look like little green men coming down on spaceships.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But in fact, what it is it is a virus that is taking over our bodies.
Yes.
And we don't have the medicine or the equipment to fight it.
Yep. We have been invaded by COVID.
So
right? Yep.
We have been invaded.
Yes.
It is an alien invasion. We just did not have the imagination. I'm sure somebody smart did, but we lack the imagination to think or to picture that this would be the form that the invasion would come in.
Yeah, that's right.
So what's terrifying, what terrifies me more than the actual virus is how we are so ill-equipped to deal with it. That's what's so scary to me. And I was diagnosed with COVID a few weeks ago.
How are you, honey?
I'm okay. I'm still dealing with stuff that I can't.
Okay.
I don't know what it is, but I'm okay.
Okay.
And when I was told, all I got was take vitamins.
Take vitamins.
Take vitamins. And I was thankfully, have a friend who has a sister who's a great doctor, and her associate, sort of helped me through it. And they were waiting to see if I would need something that would be that if it got worse, you know what I mean? But it never became a real respiratory issue. I had a couple days of, it being odd and bad, not great.
Yeah.
But, they were going to prescribe things just in case it did go down that road. But, it was just take vitamin D and take vitamin C. And if you lose your taste and smell, take zinc, and I'm just sitting here going I had to go in quarantine, This is during Christmas and the New Year's.
No.
So this was awful. I couldn't family through a window.
Oh,
it was terrible.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's okay. It's okay. It's all right. But I was terrified more than anything on some days because I was thinking these vitamins are not going to heal me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it was like, take Zyrtec, take, and I'm just like, wait a minute, this is all we can do. This, after a year of this is all that you can do. And it's like, well, if it gets worse, we'll put you on this and we'll put you on that. But I'm like, if it gets worse, and it's arrogance, it's our human arrogance and our human naivete, that naivete that we are suffering from right now. And so this idea of citizenship is killing us, literally. This idea of borders is literally killing us.
That's right. Right.
And we do stupid stuff like, put 45 in office. Then we are we put ourselves in a position where we can't communicate with other countries because they don't trust who we have in office to have a real conversation between these, states and nations to how we deal with this as, people, as human beings on this planet. Because this is an alien invasion.
Right.
So if we don't figure out that language, if we don't figure out that other practice of being human on this planet, we don't know what's going to happen now.
Right. That's right. Right. That's right. That's right. No, that's right.
We are still surprised by what we're going through right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is what we have to do. We have to think of ourselves as not just global citizens, but we have to think of ourselves as citizens of a galaxy.
Ooh, that's right.
Citizens of a universe.
Yep, that's right. That's right. That's
in
so
order
true.
for us, if we want to survive, it's a bigger demand than we are allowing. We have to switch gears. We have to.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, I think that I love John. My husband would be so happy to hear you say citizens of the universe, the galaxy, which really puts in perspective some of the things we were talking about earlier, Aunjanue, about just religion, period, and words and creeds and the stuff people believe, and it's so much bigger than just us. We are specks. We are stardust. We are stardust trying to make a way. Trying to make a way. I'm sorry you weren't well over the holidays, and I'm so glad to hear your voice. Let me ask you one more question, honey. Just tell me, if I say to you, here's what I'm sure about love. What are you sure about love?
Well, I know it's healing. I know it heals.
Mm-hmm.
I know it heals the heart. and it can heal the body sometimes too. It is my evidence of God, and I know what the power of it as I've experienced through, loving my family and being loved by my family.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most important thing to me is the love I have for my family and the love I know that they have for me. It's my wealth. Nikki Giovanni said so brilliantly, it's all I have. As I look in things in my house, these pretty pillows that I done bought somewhere, you know what I mean? Like, somewhere I done forgot. Forgot where I got them from. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is all I have.
And it is enough, isn't it? Love is all we have, and it's enough. Yeah. Aunjanue, that I get to talk to you and giggle with you and hear your just profound, deeply rooted intellect and spirit is such a huge gift this day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you bringing us, come and meeting together that day in DC.
Yeah.
That was crazy because I went to DC. I didn't know that there was going to be any march or anything like that. I was just coming down there. I was just like, I just want that woman to maybe look outside of her car and see my black face. Like, hey, girl, I'm here for you. Like, that's all I wanted.
I remember you said that. You were like, I just had to come. I know.
I didn't know nothing. I didn't know nothing was going to happen. I was like, I'm going to be there. I don't care. I'm going to be there. And then saw a couple other people or whatever. Then I go down and thing. And there with Jacqui and like the legions of women come showing. Oh, it was crazy.
It was so otherworldly. And I was so glad to see you. And then we got to march together. And it was just, that's what love looks like too. You, Aunjanue, saying, I'm just going to go show up and let her see my black face through the car window. But to turn a corner and find a legion of love warriors. That's what it looks like. That's exactly what it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, love. Thank you so much for talking to me.